We will start with the opening prayer. Please remain muted. We call the benevolent beings of light, archangels and ascended masters, to guide and inspire us during this forum. Our forum's vision is to bring the understanding, tools, discipline, and support for those seeking to enter the straight and narrow path, the road traveled, that will lead us along effectively and steadily through the ascension process. Integration of the human experience with our divine origin is moving us full circle to achieve our divine potential. So be it. Amen.
Amen.
We thank you for answering the call from on high to attend the forum. Let us join our hearts and minds in preparation to receive the blessings offered. We ask you to please release your day from your mind and center yourself. Breathing in deeply and release. Breathe in deeply and release. Take a deep breath in and release. Relax the tension in your body and your mind. Now bring your full attention to the forum. Be fully present in order to receive and fully retain the discourse gifts. John, can you start the recording and read the quote?
Help if I unmuted. Believe in your vision, even when others can't see it. Your belief is the seed of your future success.
This is very powerful statement. Just remember that. Keep believing in your vision, whatever it is for yourself, whether it's health, whether it's a career, whether it's anything that brings you great joy. Thank you. Thank you, John.
John, can you please pause the recording and start the video?
Stillness transforms your life is the topic tonight. And I am sure, as with me, you've all had a moment like this. You've had many moments as time goes on, living this life that we live. All of our experiences, all of our childhood, everything that we've done, we carry with us until what? Until we decide to really look at it, to really determine whether you want to hold on to these memories. A lot of the struggle in our life happened as children, trying to understand what we're witnessing, trying to understand why. Why did it happen that way? Why was I in that situation? Well, I tell you, you brought this with you. And the parents that you chose were destined through a contract to make sure that you see what you brought with you. They sacrificed being their own self in order to help you. However, in that sacrifice, they also grew. They started to see what they did. In my case, my mother, when I met my husband, I was 18 when I met him, and we decided to get married very shortly after that because we knew it was something beyond the normal relationships that we've ever had, both of us. And my mother said to me, "Oh, you just want to run away from here because you don't want to be in this house anymore." And it was never even a thought in my mind, but she decided because she knew what had gone on. She knew what the treatment was when I was young, you see, and she was feeling it, and she was afraid that she'd never see me again. Well, I turned out to be the caretaker for both of them till they passed. Go figure. You see, I forgave them because if I didn't, I never would have healed inside. I was so angry. I was so angry. And I felt like if only I saw them do any of what they did to me, to my brother or sister, I would have not been so hurt. But they didn't. It was me. I was the middle child. Anybody here a middle child? We're the target because we're the pivotal point between the oldest and the youngest, depending on how much, how many children there are. And my husband's a middle child, and he understood exactly where I was at because he also had a very similar pattern happening to him. If I didn't let it go and forgive, I would have eaten myself up alive. That's what would have happened. Because when we can't forgive, we don't have peace. We're always angry, and it keeps coming back and haunting us. Our place in this world is to be the light and love of God in action, to express God's love to everything, from a little tiny lizard in your backyard to a bird flying overhead to a person in your life. That's what we came to do. And when we're not doing what we came to do, we're not happy because we know we're off track. I was a wild teenager. I was self-destructing. I drove very fast. I raced cars. I was a terror to myself. When I look back, I shake just thinking about me going 100 miles an hour without a thought about it. Of course, it was on a highway. And and on back roads, I didn't do those things. But I was trying to punish myself just like I was used to being punished. You see? It didn't get me anywhere. It almost got me killed. So we go through these times in our life, and some people, honestly, it wasn't about their childhood. Some people had wonderful childhoods, but they didn't have good relationships on the outside. That was something my son experienced. He came in to be humbled, and sure as sugar, he was by everyone outside of the house. And he was literally on his knees emotionally until I said the magic words. Anthony, what do you think's happening? Why do people keep doing this to you? And he said, I don't know. I said, yes, you do. I said, it's your behavior. Because you're so smart, you brag about it and you get straight A's and you think you're better than everybody. And he started to cry. He heard me. That was the only time he really heard me. If you can get through once, it's a beautiful thing. My daughter, on the other hand, I was told by she's from Andromeda, and I was told I was not allowed to discipline her harshly. I was to, because she was the wild one, I was to just try to get some sense into her head through discussion and teaching her what's right and wrong. So she did everything to make my hair fall out and turn gray. And like comes home and she shaved her head. She had hair down to her rear end. It was gorgeous and thick and beautiful. Just to get a rise out of me, just to see if she can get me upset. And I just stared at her. I didn't know what to do. So I told her to go to her room and I'll be up there in a little bit and we'll talk about it. And when I got up there, she explained to me that she felt she needed to start a new life and she needed to do that to herself to cut her power. And I didn't know what she meant at the time, but I learned that that's true. Your hair is your power. It expresses your power. And so I took her to Israel, Greece and Italy, Israel and Egypt with me. And all the monks thought she was a monk, a female monk. And they were following her all over the place. I really had to fight off these guys. But when I went to my husband, and I was so upset when he saw her, he just looked like this and went out in his garage. He just sat out there trying to figure out what to do about this. So what happened was, he said, "Hun, she's so beautiful, whether she shaved her head or not." He said, "She's still so beautiful. What am I going to say to her?" And I just rolled my eyes and walked away. So I didn't say anything. And she was a little sorry that she did that. And then she bleached her black hair white when we got home from the 4 trips. And I asked her why she did that. And she said, "I don't know." She looked kind of freaky, little spikes on her head. And I forgave her. I forgave her for everything because she was testing me to see, am I going to stay in my center or she didn't know this consciously, believe me. Or was I going to go nutso as some mothers would do? So the next little trick she pulled on me is her and her brother flew out to Arizona. And in Arizona, I don't know where she got the money for this, but she had a full-fledged Indian chief with the big hat and everything, the feathers on her back, which I didn't see for 3 years. She always made sure she was covered up. But one day she was going to the pool with her friends and she forgot to put her cover up on over her bathing suit. And I'm looking at this thing on her back and I screamed, "Michelle!" And you could see she went, "Oh no." And she turns around and she goes, "What?" with those big blue eyes. And I said, "What is that on your back?" "Oh, it's an Indian chief. And did you see the tear coming down his cheek?" I said, "Not through the tears that I have right now in my eyes. I can't see that." "What were you thinking?" She goes, I don't know. That's what I wanted to do." And Anthony, who is my son, knew of this great guy that was famous out west. And he took her out there and let her get that. And I think they both did it to see if I would stay calm. I forgave her. But for the rest of her life, she's got this tattoo on her back from her waist to her shoulders. Yeah. With 2 sons. Hope they never saw it. Maybe they have. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. Otherwise, you tear yourself to pieces. If you hold on to the things that hurt you and don't deal with them inside yourself, take responsibility for your part. Come to know yourself fully. That is your job. It isn't for other people to understand you or to know what you need. You have to figure that out yourself. And not doing it in fear of making a mistake. Because honestly, when we don't get the right traction the first time, we learn very quickly that was not a good idea. I'm going to try something else. You have to be adventurous. You have to be strong. You have to forgive yourself for what you didn't do. I've had people say to me, "I should have stood up for myself. I should have said this. I should have done that." But I didn't have the courage. Me, in my own head, without saying anything to my parents, I was saying, you can control me outside, but you can't control what I think. And I thought that was a great thing. So that was my only peace as a child. And one day my father said to me, when I was married for years, he goes, how come you never remember the good things that happen? I said, well, I do, but the stuff that hurt overrode that. And he shook his head. He goes, I understand. Yeah, he didn't get raised by his mother. He was put in an orphanage at 5 or 6 years old and lived there until he was 18 when they kicked him out because my grandmother's husband left her. He was too much drinking and gambling and spent all the money on that. He was a very successful dairy farmer in Manhattan when there were dairy farms there. And he made a lot of money, but she never saw it, and her boys were hungry, and she was too. So she became a seamstress. And my father always ran away, and he knew where her a seamstress little tiny storefront was. And he would go there, and she'd let him sit there and teach him how to sew and stuff. And that was his greatest pleasure. But then the police came and they knew where he was going, so they'd come and drag him back to the orphanage. It's because she married a man with 3 children. His wife had mental problems and was put into a facility, and he did not want her kids near his kids. And she made a choice to give up her kids rather than, and just be on her own and do the best she could. But my father forgave her, and we talked about this a lot. Yeah. He forgave her, even though she broke his heart, because he was the youngest. He had 2 older brothers that were there too. They were angry. They were angry. And all of them went into the military so that they could try to just start a new life. And the oldest brother did okay. The middle brother, he got shell-shocked, I think they call it. So he was never right after he came back because he was such a peaceful soul in his heart because that was his nature. And when he was in the war, he couldn't stand all the horror that he experienced. And my father, he stayed close to his mother, even though he had that kind of childhood. So your childhood has a great grasp on you, the way you were treated, the way you were spoken to, the things that you learned. I was always told I was stupid and I was slow and I would never make anything of myself. And I wanted to go to college, but they wouldn't pay for me to go. And I was working since I was 16 to be independent, but I couldn't afford to go to college. But that's okay because the education I did get through spiritual teachings and religious teachings, I found my way, and peace overcame me in a way that I had not known it before. So when he speaks about this stillness, I had to enter that state because my head was screaming all the things that troubled me and hurt me all the time. It was always in my head. And I'd have to start to cry and just say, stop it, leave me alone. But it was good because I learned how to purge. I learned how to let it go, to free myself. It took many, many years. And the car accident that I had originally really got broken pretty good. I was trying to get out, just go. And I had just met Charlie in March of 69. And it was April when I had the car accident, which I should have died. I mean, completely. But I did go to the other side. And it turned out to be a great gift. Yes, my body took years to recover. And I never thought I'd get the use of my legs again. They were so badly burnt. I have no scars. I have absolutely no scars except on my knees, which were from my childhood because I always fell all the time. but none of the burns show on my legs. Yeah. You see, you can go through whatever you choose. I tried to get out of here a lot of times. I had pneumonia constantly as a baby, and I almost died so many times. And when I finally had this car accident and Mother Mary, I was speaking to her on the other side, and she said, "You have got to go back." And I said, "I don't want to go back. It felt so good. You're like so expanded. You're not in your body." But I was looking at myself. I looked just like I normally do. And she said, "You promised that you wouldn't do this again." So I knew what she was talking about, but at the time I didn't. Now I do, and I'll tell you. But she said, "You have to go back because you promised." And in my head, I'm saying, "What did I promise? What do you mean? There's only one life. Catholics don't know anything else, right? You got one chance, one life." And so I was completely confused. And she said, she just leaned in on me. "She is so gorgeous. She is so beautiful. How do you say no to her?" And she said, "You have to go back." So I almost said, "Okay." I said, "Oh," and I started falling backwards and slammed back into that horrible body of mine that was so yucky after being out of it. It turned out to be a great gift after all the healing. I stuttered so bad, I couldn't get a sentence out from the head injuries. Yeah. Back then, we didn't have a shoulder strap, so my face kept slamming on the steering wheel. Yeah. Why am I telling you this? Because I started blaming everybody, right? God did this to me. I never had anything good that I could ever have, except for Charlie. Charlie. And he, poor guy, had to deal with all of the healing years. And he's still with me after 56 years. And I had to forgive him for things too. So forgiveness only happens in the stillness when you get real with yourself. When you say to yourself, "I can't keep going like this. I can't keep thinking like this. It's tearing me to shreds." And then the holy moment happens. You cry and you cry, and then you feel this sense of relief. And I thought, "Oh, I'm done." 60 years later, no, I'm kidding. 20 years later, I was still purging. However, I started so young that I was very young, and I was healing myself nicely. And then somebody would come out of left field that would hit me with hit my button, poke your button, push my button. And I realized I wasn't done. Go figure. And so I continued to work on myself. But I had been teaching throughout this whole time from the 1980s, 82, I started teaching. Because when I worked with people, everyone that came to me, and I worked 14-hour days, 14 hours of people coming, one after another, because I don't do things slow. I'm an Aries. I wanted to heal. So everyone that came, whatever they came with, even though I could help them, I had to purge it from myself. I knew they brought me a message of something deep inside me that I wasn't aware of. And I worked with them. When I work with teenagers, we got on the floor crying, pounding the floor, whatever we had to do to help them. Some of them were badly abused as kids, worse than me, because it was physical abuse as well. Uh, Even though my father hit me all the time, it was not like what happened to these kids. And boy, I'll tell you, I loved it when I saw these kids start to heal. They were so angry, but they never could express it. They just didn't want to bring it to the surface because they were afraid they'd do something very, very bad. But they helped me. I got to purge with them. And other people, I didn't purge with them. I worked with them. And then afterwards, I had 15 minutes and I would go crazy letting it all go, whatever it was that they were holding. If I didn't have it in me, I wouldn't have cried. It wouldn't have come up emotionally. But that's how I tested it. If I emotionally responded or reacted, then I knew it was mine too. So this went on, and then Mother Mary came through one night and she says, you got to slow down because your consciousness is rising so quickly, but your body can't handle it. You're going too fast. And I said, yeah, okay. But I didn't stop. And yes, I got thrown on my back for a year. I was unable to digest food. I was dying and I was sick. And Jesus came through at Easter time, the week before Easter, and he said, okay, you wanna work with me? And I said, okay. And I said, what are we gonna do? He said, pick up your Bible. Let's start there. And he worked for that whole year with me. And we got through the whole entire Bible, but not just reading it. He explained what it meant, the vibration, the frequency behind the words. That's what really was real, not the words themselves necessarily. I had a year of education and I healed through that whole time. All I could do is drink liquids. I couldn't eat any solid food for a year. You think I got skinny? No, but that's not why. I couldn't digest life, Jesus said. It was too painful. Life around me, seeing people suffering, seeing people hurt, mistreated, misunderstood. And it was just, I couldn't stand it anymore. So after that year, I had a complete transformation of understanding. He said, I taught you the mysteries so that you can teach others. And that's what I bring here to you. The mystery of the Bible. The story of our soul's evolution was the beginning. The Judeo-Christian Bible, the Judeo side of it was our soul going through all of its experience before it was actually self-aware. And then Jesus shows up and brings in the love aspect for us to wake up and to understand what life, how life can move through you and by you. Love. He said anything based on love is permitted in universal law. Anything that's outside of love, forget knowing what the 109 universal laws are, because you're outside of love, and that is not going to do the job. And so this is how I learned to live my life. Love and to be loved, not just give, but to receive. The hardest thing in the world was me receiving love. I was always afraid it was going to hurt. You see? So in this stillness, I sat and I would work on myself and I would rest with myself and I would get angry and I would get scared and I would cry and be hurt and sad. But all these emotions left me. I threw them into the violet fire. I asked for my higher self to help me, and Jesus and Mary and all the good guys up there. And I would have this peace come over me as I called in the light to fill the places where all that pain was inside me. And I relieved myself in a way that was so precious and holy. This is the story of stillness. This is what we have to do. We always say to ourselves, oh, it's not so bad. It's so, people aren't treating me nice. It's not so bad. No, it is bad. Anybody that mistreats you or disrespects you, go inside and start respecting yourself and purge that disrespect right out of you, you see? And then you'll start seeing a shift in the energy around you. Anything you see in someone when they are in connection with you that is hurting or makes you angry or fearful, purge it right out of you, because they came to show you what you couldn't see inside yourself. And if you don't provide those hours of stillness in order to go through all of these different paces, I call them, It's just all these paces where I go through. Sometimes it's all joy, other times it's terrible pain, because layer after layer after layer keeps opening up, like we're a big peony flower, and each layer holds either joy or pain in it. And that pain is stuff that we didn't take care of, that we just held inside. I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. But you're not okay. People that have psychic breaks, it's because they get to the point where they cannot hold in their rage or their fear or their anger or their hurt anymore. They get to the point where they break. And I met one person that actually broke, and a year later, somebody had told him about me, and he came to my healing center, and I never saw an energy field so shattered in my life. It was painful to just watch. So all I did was speak to him. I was doing so from your higher self, I can connect to your higher self when I'm doing a session, and then their higher self speaks to them through me. And the tears were pouring down his face because he recognized the voice of his own higher self. He healed so much in that one session, which lasted 4 hours. Now, I had people scheduled every hour, but it's a miracle how it used to work, where somebody would be delayed. It was like perfect. And that day, all 4 of them that were scheduled after this man didn't show up, or they left a message on my phone, which I didn't have on. You see, God takes care of everything. But I was healing myself with every single one of these people. This one was different. I've never seen someone after a psychic break like that. Well, he did come back mentally. He did come back. It took a very long time. I worked with him for a couple of years, and he was good. He was able to go out there. He had all the tools he needed to work on when things came up for him, what to do with it. And he became a master purger. He really did. So I'm not saying he was 100%, but he was in good shape. He could function on his own. Yeah. Some people I worked with many, many years, long time. Not a lot of them, because I like you to go off and depend on your own higher self to guide you and to find your way. So I'm 2 minutes over because I heard you thinking that, Robin. So I'll continue this conversation maybe in a little different way after after we go into segment 2. All right.
Thank you, Barbara. That was an amazing discourse. John, can you please pause the recording and start our song?
So only you can give yourself a new beginning, as the song kept saying. You don't hang on to the old stuff. All it does is make your life miserable. Yeah, that's right, Lauren. Rainbows. You deserve to let go of the past. You deserve to live your true life in joy and happiness. Give it to yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. John, can you pause the recording?
Okay. Okay, stillness transforms your life. As we discussed here tonight and listened to the video, and even the song was like in total alignment with the topic tonight, we realize that our life, when it's over busy, when we're constantly running, when we're constantly involved with a million different things, having to know everything going on in the world, which has nothing to do with you. Only what's right in front of you has to do with you, you see? Now, the reason we do this, and we're always being tested, are we going to keep going in that route? Or are we going to get smart and start taking care of ourselves? Being in the peace that God gave us, we earned this. We earned it at this point to be in a state of peace. We went through all the hell. We did. We went through all the hell, and we learned from it, and we grew from it, and we transformed ourselves as a result of it. There was no other way it was going to go if we put our mind and hearts to our healing. It's all up to us. And if you're in that stillness, if you give yourself that time, there's so many things that happen. You feel on a deeper level. You see yourself differently. You have time to ask questions that you really want to know the answers to. You can and will heal from your past. The karma that we came in to pay off happened differently to each one of us here. And then once we got through that, then we could have the life that we wanted. We just have to focus on that. Make it our priority. Do you want to be everybody's go-to, and have your ego blowing off the top of your head all the time? Or do you just want to be at peace, be helpful where the chance and opportunity comes up, be comfortable with yourself, be comfortable with the people in your life? If you're not comfortable, take care of it. Some people are agitators and they do their job quite well. And once you are at peace with yourself and you love yourself, you kind of giggle. Before you got mad and you wanted to retaliate. But once you're okay inside, they can do whatever they want. It's okay. You know in your heart that they're in pain and they're suffering, and they lash out at somebody that isn't in that state. But you love them. You love them. Send that light to them. Be the light in the world that you came to be. It's nothing to really laugh about. What I laugh about is that I'm not upset, that it didn't trigger me because I spent so much time in my life being triggered. So the beauty of the stillness is a time for you to be with your higher self, with God, with any of the great beings of light that you relate to come to know yourself better, to ask questions inside, to get answers. It doesn't come in a voice like, you're hoping for. It just comes as inspiration. You get inspiration, like Robin was saying about her situation. She knew that those words did not come from her. It came from a higher source of her. And that is the grace that you got, because it was a crisis and it was going to end bad if you weren't there for him. And what you did getting your father was the smartest thing, because he knew what to do. Yeah. You'll know what to do. You'll know what to do when you come from your heart, when you think through your heart, not just through your brain. Your brain will give you a quick answer. Sometimes it isn't the nicest thing. Other times it's pretty good. But if you pause and give it that time that it needs to run into your heart, what comes out of your mouth is completely different than what it was going to be if you just said it out of your head. So in this stillness, you get to practice these things with yourself. And the biggest part of the time alone is to forgive yourself for anything you felt you didn't do your best. Because if you don't forgive yourself, it's very hard to forgive others. You see? Love yourself 100%, just the way you are. And if you don't like something that you're doing, or that you did, or that you said, take care of it inside yourself. Make a pact with yourself. I won't do it again. I'm not going to do it again. It's not something that I felt good about, even hearing myself say it. And when I saw the face of the person I said it to, it hurt more than anything to see the hurt on their face. You know, our mouths speaking was meant to create, just to create, not to judge, not to get angry, not to speak badly about anybody, but just to create. What do you want to create in your world? Always think about that, because everything you do, you're building a world inside you. Yeah. And what you want in there is everything that you do, say, and feel in this lifetime here in 3D. Just remember that. Okay? So I won't drag this on too much longer. Just want you to know that stillness is a grace that you give yourself. And in that time, you have great breakthroughs. You have realizations that you didn't have through the thinking mind. Bella, the lady that a couple of us knew, she'd say, "Stay out of that stinking thinking." And at first I said, "What is she saying? You know, if I don't think, how am I going to respond to anything?" Well, I learned what she meant. It's that you don't overthink things and spin it in your head until you're going nutso. You just want to think when you need to be thinking straight from the head. When you're doing your checkbook, it's a good idea to be focused. When you're doing any kind of paperwork, it's very good to be grounded into your brain. But when you're with people, be in your heart. Be in that beautiful place so that they can feel that love that you have for them. And people that are hurting and that they're not in a state of love, if you can just be in that state anyway, that will do something to them. They'll feel it on a level that's not the outside level. It's a deep feeling, and they know what love is. And maybe you save a life, as Robin talked about. So save your life first and then save everyone around you. I think in the airplanes, they tell you to put the mask on you first, then you get it on the kid. Otherwise, you're not going to be too useful. So with all my love, I say thank you for being on tonight. And I'm going to go right to sleep and recover from my boo-boo. And I really enjoyed being with all of you. God bless you. Oh,
Thank
and those on YouTube, which I forgot about before, you can join us every Wednesday night, 7 to whatever. And the website is ourdivineorigin.com. There's a lot of good stuff on there. And the YouTube is Our Divine Origin. It's you'll see the symbol of a purple box with a dove, white feathers. It's very pretty. There's other Our Divine Origins, but they're not us. All right. Done with the speech.
thank you.